Welcome to today's crime story. In this story, we take you through the case of a missing mother and the murder of her father, who was getting close to solving the case. In the quiet town of Bardstown, Kentucky, a mother of 5 vanished without a trace on a warm summer night in 2015. Her car was discovered abandoned along a lonely stretch of highway with her phone and keys left behind on the passenger seat. But Crystal Rogers herself was nowhere to be found. What followed became one of the most unsettling cases the community had ever faced, an investigation filled with suspicious details, heartbreaking revelations, and a growing sense of fear that something deeply wrong had taken place. Crystal Rogers was known as a devoted mother, a woman whose disappearance would uncover hidden secrets, spark another tragic death, and leave her family fighting for answers. She lived about 45 miles southeast of Louisville and was recognized by everyone who knew her for her dedication to her children. Crystal had 4 children from her previous marriage to Keith and a young son, just 2 years old at the time, with her boyfriend, Brooks Houck. Although her marriage had ended, Crystal worked hard to maintain a peaceful and cooperative relationship with her ex-husband. They both understood the importance of stability for their children and did what they could to provide it. But those close to her often said it was her bond with her youngest son that showed who she truly was. The two were inseparable, and Crystal's family insisted she would never abandon him under any circumstances. Crystal's mother, Sherry Ballard, had raised a daughter who was responsible, dependable, and consistently in touch with her family. Crystal always answered her phone, she always checked in, she always let her loved ones know where she was and when she planned to return home. That routine, that reliability, made the silence that followed her disappearance feel immediately wrong. On July 5, 2015, Sherry picked up the phone, expecting to hear her daughter's familiar voice. Instead, the call rang unanswered. For many families, a missed call might not be cause for alarm, but this wasn't normal for Crystal. Sherry tried again, and again. Each unanswered attempt deepened the unease growing inside her. By the time 24 hours had passed, Sherry's concern had turned into a heavy dread. She reached out to Crystal's friends, relatives, and anyone who might have seen her recently, but no one had. No one had heard from her at all. Then Sherry received a call from her other daughter, Brooke, who had also been trying to reach Crystal without success. Brooke had spoken with Crystal's boyfriend, Brooks Houck, but even he claimed not to know where Crystal was. The silence was becoming impossible to ignore. What Brooks told Brooke was puzzling and unsettling. According to him, he hadn't seen Crystal since Friday night. He claimed she had stayed up late, sitting beside him and playing games on her phone as she often did. Brooks said he eventually went to bed, and when he woke up around 7 a.m., Crystal was gone. He assumed she had decided to spend the morning at her cousin's house for 4th of July festivities. But anyone who knew Crystal immediately doubted this explanation. She wouldn't simply leave without telling someone. She wouldn't abandon her 2-year-old son, and she would never step away from home without taking her phone. Sherry's worry had now turned into urgent fear. She went straight to the police station and filed a missing persons report. While she was there, her son Casey received a call that would shift the entire case. A friend had spotted Crystal's car abandoned on the side of the Bluegrass Parkway. Casey quickly notified his father, Tommy Ballard, and the two rushed to the scene. What they found confirmed their growing dread. Crystal's car sat on the shoulder of the highway, apparently stopped because of a flat tire, but Crystal herself was gone. Casey and Tommy immediately knew something was terribly wrong. If Crystal had car trouble, she would have called them. She wasn't the type to try fixing the issue alone, much less walk away without contacting anyone. As they approached the vehicle, a chilling discovery awaited them. Crystal's keys were sitting on the passenger seat. Her phone was there as well. Her purse with all her personal belongings remained untouched inside the car. Crystal Rogers had vanished, leaving behind everything she would have needed to reach out for help or return home. This wasn't someone who had simply walked away. Something happened here. Something serious. They called the Nelson County Sheriff's Department. Investigators soon arrived and examined the scene carefully. At first glance, nothing suggested a struggle. Aside from the flat tire, the car showed no damage. There was no blood, no broken glass, nothing that pointed to violence. But a small detail stood out. Subtle, yet deeply suspicious. The driver's seat was pushed farther back than it should have been for someone of Crystal's height. It looked like someone else had been behind the wheel. That single detail shifted the tone of the investigation. Had someone else driven Crystal's car to this spot? Police began canvassing the area, hoping someone might have witnessed a car pulled over during the night or early morning. But the Bluegrass Parkway was quiet during those hours. No witnesses stepped forward, and no one reported seeing anything unusual. With few leads to pursue, investigators turned to the public, releasing Crystal's photo and asking anyone with information, no matter how small, to come forward. But days passed with little response, and no meaningful tips emerged. While official leads stalled, Crystal's father, Tommy Ballard, refused to stand still. He was determined to find his daughter, no matter how long it took or where the search led. Tommy Ballard refused to wait for answers. He organized search parties across Bardstown, urging community members to join the effort to find his daughter. Despite the punishing Kentucky heat and suffocating humidity, people showed up. Friends, neighbors, even strangers moved by the family's desperation. They walked fields, searched along highways, explored wooded areas, and checked any place Crystal might possibly be. But amid all the volunteers, one person was noticeably absent. Brooks Houck, Crystal's boyfriend and the father of her youngest child. His lack of involvement didn't just upset the family, it caught the attention of investigators. Here was a man whose partner had vanished, and yet he wasn't out looking for her. To detectives, it was more than unusual. It was a warning sign. Brooks soon became the focus of the investigation. Detectives brought him in for questioning, and he delivered a simple, almost perfectly polished version of events. According to him, the evening of July 3rd, he, Crystal, and their toddler went to his family's farm. Brooks claimed he spent the evening doing chores, burning scrap materials, and waiting for the fire to burn out. Around midnight, they left the property and returned home. He said he went to bed, while Crystal stayed awake playing games on her phone. When he awoke at 7 a.m., their son was beside him, but Crystal was gone. He assumed she'd left early to visit her cousin for the holiday. But to Crystal's family, this story had one unmistakable flaw. She would never leave her 2-year-old son behind, not for a moment, and certainly not without a word. Everyone who knew her understood that. If she left that house, something forced her to. Police asked Brooks to take a polygraph test. The results came back inconclusive, neither confirming nor disproving his account. Still, investigators pressed forward. In a formal interview, new and troubling information emerged. Surveillance footage from the Houck family farm showed Brooks's truck entering the property that evening and leaving around midnight, just as he had said. But the truck had heavily tinted windows. Investigators couldn't tell who was inside. Was Crystal with him? Was their son in the back? Or was Brooks alone? The footage couldn't answer the question. Then there was the call. On his way home from the farm, Brooks received a 13-second call from a business associate named Stephen Lawson. When detectives asked about it,
Brooks had Lawson call into the interview to clarify. Lawson claimed he had contacted Brooks for information about a rental property and that Brooks told him he would need to wait until he got home because Crystal handled those details. To investigators, this explanation made little sense. If Crystal had been in the truck, why couldn't Brooks simply hand her the phone? Why wait until they got home to ask a question she could answer instantly? The story felt constructed, too neat, too convenient. Something about that call didn't add up, and detectives were beginning to suspect that much more wasn't adding up either. It soon became clear to investigators that Brooks had an answer ready, almost scripted, to explain the suspicious 13-second phone call. And then, something even more unsettling happened. In the middle of his interview, Brooks received a call from his brother, Nick Houck, an officer with the Bardstown Police Department. Nick told him to leave the interrogation immediately. Seconds later, Brooks ended the interview and walked out. For detectives, this was the moment their suspicions hardened. Crystal Rogers had not simply walked away from her life or abandoned her car on the Bluegrass Parkway. Something far darker had happened, and all signs pointed toward the Houck family farm. Their theory grew stronger when reports began coming in from local residents. Multiple people told police they had seen Brooks's truck and Nick's police cruiser at the farm after Crystal disappeared. The timing raised disturbing possibilities. Were the Houck brothers disposing of evidence? Were they trying to erase the traces of whatever had happened to Crystal? Detectives brought Nick Houck in for questioning. Nick, an experienced officer, knew exactly how to protect himself. When asked whether he had any involvement in Crystal's disappearance, he invoked his Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. He refused to answer questions. He refused to polygraph test. His silence wasn't illegal, but to investigators, it spoke volumes. As the investigation continued, a troubling picture of Crystal's relationship with Brooks began to emerge. Her sister, Brooke, told police that Crystal had been preparing to leave him. She said Brooks had lied to Crystal repeatedly and shown little emotional attachment to her. Crystal had confided in her mother, Sherry, that ending the relationship would not be easy. Brooks was controlling. Her brother, Casey, had seen signs of strain as well. He'd witnessed arguments between Crystal and Brooks in the weeks leading up to her disappearance. Tense, heated exchanges that suggested the relationship was falling apart. A narrative was forming, a relationship in crisis, a woman ready to walk away, and a partner who might not have been willing to lose control. For more than a year, Crystal's father, Tommy Ballard, refused to stop searching for his daughter. He organized search teams, followed every lead, and kept Crystal's case alive in the public eye. He would not give up, not until he found the truth, no matter how long it took. Tommy's persistence made people believe he was getting close. He was talking to the right people, uncovering new information, and connecting dots that others may have missed. Then, tragedy struck again. On November 19, 2016, Tommy prepared for another day of searching. It was early, cold, and still. Hunting season had begun, and Tommy, an experienced hunter, took his 11-year-old grandson out to check their property. What happened next devastated the Ballard family and added another horrific chapter to an already heartbreaking story. At around 7:30 a.m., Sherry Ballard's phone rang. The voice on the line told her that Tommy had been shot. She needed to get to the hospital immediately. Sherry raced to the scene, fear gripping her chest. When she arrived, she saw emergency responders surrounding her husband. She watched them fight to save him, but deep down, she already knew. From their faces, from their urgency, from the stillness of Tommy's body, she understood. Tommy was gone. He had been shot once in the chest. He died at the scene. At first, some suggested it might have been a hunting accident. Sherry rejected that instantly. She knew her husband. She knew his experience with firearms. "This is my husband, and it's a murder, and you know it," she told investigators. The investigation revealed crucial facts. Tommy's rifle had never been fired. His grandson was quickly ruled out. The Kentucky State Police officially declared Tommy's death a homicide. To the Ballard family, the motive was clear. Tommy was murdered because he was getting too close to the truth about what happened to Crystal. Investigators believe that whoever harmed Crystal wanted Tommy out of the way, fearing that his relentless search for answers would finally expose what truly happened on that July night in 2015. For years, the case remained painfully stalled. Crystal was still missing, and Tommy's murder remained unsolved. The Ballard family watched time pass, wondering if they would ever learn the truth or see justice served. Still, behind the scenes, the investigations continued. In 2022, the FBI conducted a 5-day search related to Crystal's disappearance, returning to the Houck family farm to gather potential evidence. Although they did not publicly reveal what they found, a spokesperson confirmed that all materials were sent to the FBI laboratory in Quantico, Virginia, for analysis. That same year, the Kentucky Attorney General appointed a special prosecutor to assist with the criminal charges tied to both Crystal's disappearance and Tommy's murder, an action fully supported by Sherry Ballard, who believed that fresh eyes and specialized experience were crucial to finally achieving justice. Then, in July 2023, the case took a dramatic turn. A grand jury indicted 32-year-old Joseph Lawson on charges of conspiracy to commit murder and tampering with physical evidence in connection with Crystal's disappearance. 2 months later, the arrest the community had long awaited finally arrived. Brooks Houck was taken into custody and charged with murder and tampering with evidence related to Crystal's death. His bond was set at an unprecedented $10 million, and he was ordered to have no contact with Crystal's family. The news was bittersweet for the people of Bardstown and for the Ballards. Their worst fears were confirmed. Crystal was not merely missing, but dead. Yet there was relief in knowing that someone was finally being held responsible. Justice, it seemed, was finally within reach. Brooks Houck made his first court appearance in October 2023 via video. The hearing proved explosive as prosecutors revealed stunning new details. When the judge asked Special Prosecutor Shane Young whether they were investigating any other cases tied to Crystal's disappearance, he confirmed they were actively pursuing leads in Tommy Ballard's murder and believed the two cases were connected. Then came the bombshell. Prosecutors announced they believed they had obtained the gun used to kill Tommy. They stated that the firearm had been purchased from Nick Houck, Brooks's brother and a police officer, who allegedly used a fake name during the sale. The rifle's caliber matched the weapon used in Tommy's murder, and prosecutors reported that it matched 4 out of 5 criteria used for formal ballistic confirmation. If verified, this would directly link the Houck family to Tommy's death, supporting the Ballard family's long-held belief that Tommy was killed because he was getting too close to the truth. Prosecutors also alleged that members of the Houck family had illegally recorded grand jury proceedings. According to their statements, Brooks's sister, brother, mother, brother-in-law, and his mother's boyfriend were all involved. The implication was clear. The Houck family was coordinating their stories and attempting to gain an improper advantage in the case. Brooks's mother, Rosemary, refused to answer questions about the allegations. Brooks's attorneys responded by filing motions to disqualify the judge, claiming hostility toward their client since 2017 and arguing that the $10 million bond was excessive. They insisted Brooks could not receive a fair trial under these conditions. The Kentucky Appeals Court denied the motions, ruling that the judge would remain on the case and Brooks would stay in jail on the original bond. In December 2023, the investigation widened further. Stephen Lawson, father of Joseph Lawson, was indicted on charges of conspiracy to commit murder and tampering with physical evidence. The growing number of indictments suggested that Crystal's disappearance and death involved multiple individuals working together. Today, Sherry Ballard continues her fight for justice for both her daughter and her husband. She has lost two of the people she loved most, and she firmly believes their deaths are linked, that Tommy was killed because he refused to stop searching for Crystal. The community of Bardstown has been forever changed by these events. What happened to Crystal Rogers and later to Tommy Ballard has left deep scars. Yet the town has also shown remarkable resilience, rallying around the Ballards and refusing to forget the victims at the center of this tragedy. For more than 8 years, Sherry has lived with painful questions. Where is her daughter's body? What truly happened that July night? How many people were involved? Will Tommy's killer ever face justice? The arrests of Brooks Houck, Joseph Lawson, and Stephen Lawson mark significant progress, but for the Ballard family, the journey is far from over. Until Crystal's remains are found, until her final resting place is known, and until everyone responsible for her death and Tommy's murder is held accountable, there can be no true closure. Crystal Rogers was a devoted mother, a loving daughter, and a caring sister. She deserved to watch her children grow up and to live out the life that was stolen from her. Tommy Ballard was a determined father who never stopped searching for his daughter and who paid the ultimate price for his devotion. Crystal's disappearance is more than a true crime case. It is a story of a family's unbreakable love, a mother's relentless fight for justice, and a community's refusal to let two victims be forgotten. As Brooks Houck awaits trial and prosecutors build their case, one thing remains certain. The Ballard family will not rest until they receive the answers they deserve and the justice they have sought since that terrible day in July 2015. Crystal Rogers' story is not yet finished. The final chapter, where justice is fully achieved, is still being written. When that day finally comes, Sherry Ballard and her family may at last find peace, knowing that Crystal and Tommy can finally rest, and that the truth has come to light.